All right, I'll just get right into it. My name's Mike, and honestly, I never thought I'd be the guy to sit here and post something like this, but here I am. My wife, Emily, and I had been together for about 7 years. We were that couple everyone thought was perfect, happy, stable, with a nice house, good jobs, the whole 9 yards. I trusted her completely, or at least I thought I did. Looking back, I should have seen the signs, but as most people do, I convinced myself everything was fine. At first it was small stuff. She'd stay out later than usual, sometimes claiming she was working late, but I'd notice her phone screen lighting up with texts I wasn't supposed to see. She'd brush me off, call me paranoid, accuse me of overthinking. Still, I let it slide because I loved her, and I wanted to believe we were solid. But then came the bigger signs. She started buying more expensive clothes, things I knew she hadn't needed before. Her phone was glued to her hand more often, and she'd get weirdly defensive whenever I asked about her plans. The sex also slowed down, not completely gone, but definitely less frequent, and it felt like she was just going through the motions. Looking back, I see now she was already planning something. I just didn't want to admit it. I kept telling myself she was stressed or maybe just tired. I'd come home from work and she'd be on her phone, hiding her screen when I walked in. I started noticing her sneaking out of the house at odd hours, saying she was meeting friends or going to the gym, but I knew better. I started following her one night just to see where she was going. That's when I found her, well, not immediately, but I caught her. One night I came home early from work. I was exhausted, but I wanted to surprise her. I walk into the house and the first thing I notice is her car isn't in the driveway. That's unusual. I go upstairs and hear muffled voices from her bedroom. My stomach drops. I listen for a second and I realize, shit, it's her and someone else. I open the door quietly, expecting to see her with a guy, but what I see is even worse. She's in our bed, with her boss. Jake, they're tangled up in each other, sex, hands everywhere, the whole thing. I felt like the ground dropped out from under me. I saw her lying there, completely unashamed, her hair a mess, and him pressed against her. My wife, my partner, cheating on me with her boss asterisk. I froze, my mind racing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I felt this mix of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak all at once. How long had this been going on? How many times had I missed the signs? It was like my entire world crumbled in that moment. I didn't make a sound. I just backed out slowly, closed the door, and went outside. I needed to breathe to process what I'd just seen. I didn't even know what to do next. All I knew was that my wife, Emily, had been lying to me for months, maybe longer, and I had no idea. That day, everything changed. I felt like a fool, like I'd been played for a fool. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but part of me couldn't believe she'd have the nerve to look me in the eye after that. I knew I needed to think, to plan what I'd say or do, but mostly I just felt sick and betrayed. I never thought someone I loved so much could cheat so blatantly, so shamelessly. I kept asking myself, how did we get here? How did I not see this coming? And more than anything, I wondered how I was supposed to live with this knowledge, knowing she'd been lying right to my face all this time. The next day was a blur. I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, my head pounding, stomach churning. I couldn't get the image out of my head. Emily lying there with her boss, completely unashamed, like she didn't care what I'd just seen. I kept replaying it, trying to find some kind of explanation, some reason why she'd do this to me. But there was no reason that made sense. Just betrayal, not just once, but over and over again. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. But I also didn't want to blow up everything without thinking it through. I decided to wait until she came home, wait for her to be alone so I could get some answers. When she finally walked in late that evening, her face was tired, probably from work, but I knew better. I could see the nervous flicker in her eyes. She sensed something was wrong. I didn't waste time, I just laid it out there right away. Emily, I saw you in our bed. With Jake, tell me what the hell is going on. Her eyes widened, and for a moment I thought she'd deny it, but she didn't. She just looked at me, acting like she was surprised I knew. Then she rolled her eyes and snorted. Oh, come on, you're overreacting. That's just sex, Mike. It doesn't mean anything. Her voice was cold, dismissive, like I was some idiot who couldn't handle the truth. I was furious. How can you sit there and tell me it's just sex? You've been lying for months, Emily. Do you even realize how much you've hurt me? I saw you with him in our bed and you think I'm overreacting." She shrugged like I was some inconvenience. "Look, I don't owe you explanations. Jake and I, yeah, we've got something going on. So what? You're not the only one who's been unhappy, you know. Maybe if you paid a little more attention, you'd see I was miserable too." That's when I lost it. I told her she was a cold, selfish bitch, that she had no respect for me or our marriage. I demanded she tell me how long this had been going on, where else she'd been sneaking around. And her response? She just smirked and said, "You think I owe you every detail, Mike? Maybe you should think about what you're doing wrong, huh? Maybe if you weren't so clueless, you'd understand why I needed someone who actually cared about me." That was the moment I realized she had zero remorse. She was proud of what she was doing. The emotional pain was overwhelming. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and utter disbelief. I'd been so blind, so trusting. I'd given her everything, my love, my time, my respect. And she threw it all away for some meaningless sex with her boss. I kept thinking, how can she be so callous? How could she lie so easily? It felt like my chest was tightening, like I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, too. Shake her, but I knew that wouldn't change anything. I just stood there, staring at her, feeling like I'd lost my wife and a part of myself. By the end of that night, I was exhausted emotionally. I didn't sleep much. All I could think about was how to handle this, what to do next. I had to decide whether to forgive her, to try to fix this, or to cut my losses and walk away. Deep down, I knew I couldn't stay with her, not after what I'd seen and what she'd admitted to. But I also felt ashamed, confused, and deeply broken. This wasn't how I'd envisioned my life. Not like this. Not with her lying right to my face, betraying me so openly. After that confrontation, I knew I couldn't just go on pretending everything was normal. I needed time to think, to process, and honestly, to figure out what my next move was going to be. But before I could even decide, something else happened that threw me for a loop, something I didn't see coming. I started noticing small things, clues that the situation was even worse than I thought. First, Emily started acting even more defensive. She'd snap at me for the smallest things, accuse me of spying or being paranoid if I asked where she was or why she was acting weird. I caught her deleting texts on her phone more often, and her responses when I asked about her whereabouts became increasingly vague and dismissive. It was clear she was trying to cover her tracks even more. But what really floored me was the discovery of a key. One night, I was cleaning the house, and I found a small, almost hidden key in her jewelry box. It was plain, unassuming, but I knew it wasn't just a random trinket. I started feeling sick again. That's when I remembered the night I saw her leave in a rush, late and with a strange bag. I'd noticed she'd been coming home later and later, and the bag she carried that night had a strange smell, like perfume from a different place, maybe a hotel. I put two and two together. She had a secret apartment. I remembered her mentioning she had a work project, but I now realized that was just another lie. She'd been meeting her boss there, probably more than once. The next blow came a few days later. I decided to go through her stuff when she was out, just to find concrete proof, I guess, and I did. Hidden behind a false wall in her closet, I found receipts from a place called The Loft, a tiny apartment she'd never mentioned. It was paid for with cash, discreet, no trace. I felt like my stomach dropped again. All this time, she'd been living a double life, sneaking around behind my back, not just with Jake, but in her own secret apartment. I started thinking about how many nights she'd been there, what they'd done, how deep this really went. It all felt so surreal I didn't know what to think. I was angry, yes, but mostly devastated. How could she do this? How could she lie to me for so long? The woman I loved, the woman I thought was my partner, had been hiding this entire other life from me. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. The betrayal was deeper than I had ever imagined. I kept picturing her in that apartment, her sneaking out at night, meeting him, laughing with him, probably having sex with him, while I was at work or at home, clueless. I kept asking myself questions. Did I miss the signs? Was she ever really mine? Or was this some long-running affair that I had never suspected? The pain was almost physical. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. All I wanted was to confront her again, to get her to admit everything, but I knew that probably wouldn't help. Still, I couldn't just let her keep hiding things. I needed answers, and I felt like I was on the verge of losing my mind trying to piece everything together. So I decided I'd have to confront her again, this time with hard proof. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. But part of me also wanted to just walk away, to burn it all down and start fresh somewhere else. I wasn't sure I could ever trust her again, no matter what she said or did. That's when I realized this wasn't just about cheating anymore. It was about the life I thought we had, the trust I'd given her, and whether I even wanted to stay in a marriage where I was so thoroughly betrayed. The day I decided to confront Emily again, I felt like I was carrying a weight I couldn't drop. I had the evidence, those receipts, the hidden key, the knowledge of her secret apartment, and I knew I had to use it. I didn't want to do this without preparation. I wanted her to face everything I'd uncovered and hear her lie to my face again, or better yet, admit the truth. When she finally came home that evening, I was already waiting in the living room, my arms crossed, trying to keep myself calm but knowing I was on the edge. She looked tense, wary. I could tell she knew I was holding something. I didn't waste any time. I pulled out the receipts, the key, and the photos I'd taken of her apartment. I didn't even need to say much, just laid everything out there, let her see it for herself. Her face instantly changed. The confident, bitchy smirk she had earlier was gone. She looked panicked now, stumbling over her words. "Mike, you don't understand," she started, trying to brush it off. "That's not what it looks like." Her voice was shaky, but her eyes still had that defiant look, like she thought she could talk her way out of this. That made me angrier. "Not what it looks like. Are you serious?" I shot back. "You've been lying to me for months, Emily. You've got a whole secret life, and here I am thinking I'm married to someone who loves me. You've been sneaking around, meeting your boss in a fucking secret apartment, and you think you can just brush this off like it's nothing." I could feel my voice rising, tears threatening to come. I was furious but also heartbroken. She looked at me, cornered. "Look, Mike, I was just having some fun. Jake, been there for me when you haven't. You're never around, always working, never paying attention. It's not like I cheated because I don't love you. It was just sex, just something to make me feel alive," she said, shrugging. And her tone, so dismissive, so bitchy, made me want to scream, like I was some idiot for trusting her. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told her she was selfish, that she'd thrown away everything we had for some cheap thrill. I told her she was a manipulative, lying bitch who thought she was better than everyone, especially me. I demanded she tell me everything, how long this had been going on, what they'd done, what her plans were, but she just kept smirking, acting like she was the one in control. "You think this is the end of it? I've got my life, Mike. You can't keep me locked up. You're not my boss and you don't own me." The emotional toll was crushing. I felt like I was losing my mind. The love I'd had for her, the trust, everything was crumbling. I'd never been so hurt, so betrayed. I felt stupid for believing in her, for thinking we had something real. That moment, I realized she'd been lying to me every single day, and I had no idea. She'd been having sex with her boss, sneaking out to her secret apartment and lying to my face. I wondered if I'd ever be able to look at her the same way again. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't know what to do or say. I just felt numb. Part of me wanted to grab my stuff and walk out that door, never look back. Part of me wanted her to explain herself, to tell me she was sorry, to somehow undo everything she'd done. But deep down, I knew that was just wishful thinking. The trust was broken and it was never coming back. I was left standing there, devastated, realizing that my life with her, as I knew it, was over. And somehow, I had to find a way to pick up the pieces. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't look at Emily the same way. The woman I had loved and trusted was nothing but a stranger now, someone who had lied so blatantly, cheated so thoroughly, that I wondered if I even knew her at all. Still, I didn't want to make any rash decisions. I needed to think, to figure out what I truly wanted. But every time I looked at her, I saw the betrayal, her sneering, her dismissive attitude, her lies. It cut deep, and I knew I couldn't stay in this marriage without some serious consequences. In the days that followed, I started planning my next move. I didn't want to do anything impulsive. I'd been burned enough for one lifetime. I decided I'd give her a final chance to come clean, to tell me the truth about everything, and then I'd decide. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some naive fool anymore. I wanted her to understand that I knew about her secret apartment, her affair, everything. It was her last shot to be honest, or I'd walk away for good. Of course, she didn't take it well. When I confronted her again, I told her I knew about the apartment, the receipts, everything. Her reaction was so typical, defensive, bitchy, full of false bravado. She said, "Oh, so now you're playing detective. Whatever, Mike. You're overreacting. I don't owe you explanations." That made me furious. I told her she had no right to dismiss what she'd done, that I was tired of her lies, tired of her playing the victim. I just wanted her to admit she'd screwed everything up. Maybe then I could decide if there was any way back from this. But she refused. She kept claiming she was still the same person, that she was just trying to find herself, that Jake made her feel alive when I couldn't anymore. Honestly, hearing her say that made my stomach turn. I realized her pride was more important than truth, more important than the wreckage she'd caused. I felt a mixture of anger and disgust, but also an overwhelming sadness. I'd lost her, I knew that now, and there was no going back. That's when I finally decided I couldn't stay, not just because of everything she'd done, but because I couldn't keep living with the constant lie. I told her I was leaving, packing my bags, planning to move out the next day. Her face twisted into a sneer, like she was annoyed I was finally catching up. "Fine," she spat. "Go. It's not like you're worth anything anyway. I'll be better without you." That was the moment I realized she didn't care about us, about me. She just cared about her own ego. And honestly, I felt a strange sense of relief because I finally saw her for what she really was. As I walked out that door, I felt a mix of heartbreak and liberation. I knew I'd be okay, eventually. But right then, it hurt so much to realize the woman I loved was capable of so much betrayal. I learned the hard way that sometimes the people you trust the most can turn out to be the ones who hurt you the deepest. And I'd never forget that feeling, the crushing weight of betrayal, the shock of discovering someone you thought loved you was just playing a game behind your back. That's something I'll carry for a long time. Walking out that door was like finally waking up from a nightmare I didn't even realize I was in. I felt numb, yet somehow lighter, like I'd been carrying a heavy load for so long and at last I'd set it down. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I also knew I'd survive this. That day I packed my things, left the house I'd built with her, and started over. It wasn't just about leaving her behind. It was about reclaiming myself, my life, my dignity. In the weeks that followed, I had a lot of time to reflect on everything. I realized how naive I'd been to overlook the signs, to ignore my gut. But I also learned that sometimes love isn't enough. Trust, once broken, shatters in ways you can't fix with words or promises. I'd been through hell, but I was starting to see the light again. Slowly, I moved on, focusing on work, friends, and myself. The pain did vanish overnight, but it got easier with each day. What hurts the most isn't even the betrayal itself. It's the realization that I was so blindsided by love, that I let someone I trusted so completely deceive me, manipulate me into thinking everything was fine. I keep asking myself why I didn't see the signs sooner, why I didn't leave earlier. But I know there's no point dwelling on that. Instead, I tell myself this was a lesson, a brutal but necessary one. Trust is fragile, and it's something you have to fight to hold on to. Once it's gone, it's almost impossible to get back. Looking back, I don't regret the heartbreak. It's shaped me into someone who's more cautious, more aware. It's made me realize that I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who truly cares. Emily's betrayal showed me just how much I valued my own self-worth, and that's something I won't give up again. I hope others out there who are going through similar nightmares find the strength to walk away, even if it hurts like hell. Because at the end of the day, the only person you can really rely on is yourself. And no matter how deep the pain, life does go on, stronger, wiser, and finally freer.